All right, here we go. So we are looking at lesson 15. I'm just going to highlight some of the problems in lesson 15. So this is the first one. To get a new computer, a recent college graduate obtains a loan of $450. She agrees to pay 18% annual interest, which will apply to any money she owes. She doesn't make any payments during the first year. How much will she owe at the end of 1 year? Show your reasoning. So we can have option one, where we take the $450 and then we have to add 18%. So then we multiply the 450 by 18, 450 times, 18 hundredths, not 18, 18 hundredths will give us 81. We have to add that interest on to 450 and we end up with $531. Option two is just taking that $450 and multiplying it by 1, which is 100% of the loan, plus the 18% interest. So 18 hundredths, and 1 plus 18 hundredths is 1 and 18 hundredths. And notice you're going to get the same answer, just the second option basically is a quick one-step expression. All right, so now let's assume she continues to make no payments to the lender. How much will she owe at the end of 2 years, at the end of 3 years? As a reminder, she took a loan for $450 at 18% interest. So let's look at the amount owed at the end of 2 years. We're going to look at this to break it down into a couple sections. So here are the beginning steps. So we have to take what she owed at the end of the first year, which is this expression, plus what she owed at the end of the first year times the 18% or 18 hundredths. So I did this step by step to show you how it can get simplified. So notice in this first term here is the same as the first term over in this, this first term and this expression here are the same. So we can remember what we talked about in lesson 14. We factor out what they have in common. So each of these has the 450 plus 450 times 18 hundredths in common. So notice this is just like multiplying it by 1, and we're also multiplying the second one by 18 hundredths. So when we factor out the 450 plus 450 times 18 hundredths, we get the 1 plus the 18 hundredths, which is just 1 and 18 hundredths. So we have what we factored out, the 450 times 1 plus 18 hundredths, times 1 and 18 hundredths. And once again, if we simplify this, we're getting $450 times 1 and 18 hundredths twice, right? We do that twice, and this is 2 years. So let's see if you can use this final answer, an example, for the 2 years to determine the amount the graduate owes at the end of 3 years. This was all the work as to how we got here. But just think, if this is what we did at the end of 2 years, what will we do to get the amount she owed at the end of 3 years? So to find the amount owed at the end of the third year, students started by writing this. The year 3 amount equals the year 2 amount plus the year 2 amount times the 18% interest. And they ended with this, 450 times 1 and 18 hundredths times 1 and 18 hundredths times 1 and 18 hundredths. So does her final expression correctly reflect the amount owed at the end of the third year? Explain or show your reasoning. And my hint is, this is similar to the reasoning from number 2 on the previous slide. All of this work here, right, simplifies. So that's your hint. And I have confidence that you guys can figure that out and explain your reasoning. Question 4 asks you to write an expression for the amount she owes at the end of X years without making any payment. So assuming she's not making any payment. So let's look. After 2 years, right? It's $450 times 100% of the 450 and 1800ths. And we have to do that twice. Well, how can we simplify that? Ding, 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 ding. Here's how it can be simplified. So let's see what happens, how we could write that at the end of 3 years. Oh, oops, and I jumped ahead so that if this, if I go from here to the end, this is after 2 years. After 3 years becomes this expression. So what do you think is going to happen after X years? So comparing loans, suppose that 3 people each have taken loans of $1,000, but they each pay different annual interest rates. For each loan, write an expression using only multiplication for the amount owed at the end of each year if no payments are made. So I kind of started the chart, and I think you all are going to be able to fill that in without too much of a problem. Notice the Google Slides does not allow me to use exponents, so that little, what we call caret, means exponent. Right. So then question 2 says, when you graph these functions, make sure you have, question 2 asks you to graph it, and I'm telling you here, when you graph them, make sure you have a good window. You know, what's your x? What are good numbers for your x? What are good numbers for your y? Is this exponential growth? Is it growing, or is it decaying? And then on your own, I'm confident you guys have this. So good luck. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a good day.